Everybody, welcome back. So today we are going to be talking about this idea that maybe you have become familiar with, called like retraining your brain, calming your nervous system. I have heard of something along these lines called pain reprocessing syndrome, system, something. Um, but basically the idea that we can rework our pain, right? Now, obviously, on my channel, I talk about a lot of things about calming the nervous system and taking stressors out of our lives and dealing with past trauma and giving us a better environment with which we can heal. And I struggle when my professional peers seem to think that like it's all one thing. I really don't think that at all. I focus on the things that you're probably not getting in physical therapy. I think movement is just as important as the things that I am saying. And I have a very hard time believing that there is no biological component at all to pain. I don't think that it's the tissue issues that we keep being told are the issues, because tissue does indeed repair. And so that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And if it were only the tissue issue, surgery would take care of it. Like at the end of the line, surgery should take care of that. So I do believe that our nervous system is highly involved in chronic pain. But I don't think it's simply solely a matter of retraining your pain pathways, if you will. I think it's healing larger portions of ourselves that allow us not to have boundaries which constantly push us over our limit, that allow us to be people pleasing, which doesn't really get us help in the medical world, right? I think it's like learning to deal with our type A tendencies so that we don't push ourselves so hard. It's learning to reframe our value. It's learning to put ourselves as women first. I think all of those things need to be in place in order to have an experience where we can heal and improve our lives from chronic pain. So, since I do believe that the nervous system is a portion, but not the whole, of the problem, I want to talk about some times where all of the things that you're doing to calm your nervous system may simply not be enough. And like, let's be super, super real about this today, right? Because there are times where you're doing all the things and it's just not working. And that's just as true in when you're addressing it as a biological issue and you're doing all the PT and the taping and the foam rolling and the cupping and the acupuncture and the dry needling and the steroid injections and the medications and all the things, and it's not healing. Same thing can happen with the nervous system. So let's look at a few reasons why that is. The first one is an incomplete diagnostic workup. Somebody looked at you, they heard your story, and they went, oh, it's your nervous system. And they didn't do a complete workup. This is a no-no. Yes, yes, yes. Nervous system work helps for really everything. It helps for anxiety. It helps for just being a happier human being in the world with no health conditions. But if you have not had an accurate diagnostic workup, if your doctor or physical therapist went straight to calming the nervous system and you've been putting in the work for years and it's not giving you a return, you need to seek a second opinion. Many of the times in those cases, the clients that I work with, and that's just my little silo, right? I'm not saying everybody, I'm saying the people that see me. When that's the case, it's usually an autoimmune disease that hasn't been detected yet. Find a rheumatologist, get a referral, knock down that door, okay? So if you've been quickly dismissed and told that it's like actually literally told it's in your head and there's nothing that they can do for you, and you've been doing the nervous system brain retraining stuff and it's not making a dent, get a second opinion. This very real pain that you are experiencing responds to stress. It responds to emotions. It responds to feelings of not being safe. I don't know about you, but when I look at the world in 2024, it's hard out there. Jobs aren't paying much. We're working harder. Life is more expensive. And food insecurity is very real. Housing insecurity is very real. Inability to seek the medical treatment we need because it's too expensive is very real. These are very, very, very real factors that make it really challenging and kind of ridiculous for me to say, well, if you could just do your breathing, you got bigger fish to fry. You've got more to worry about when your environment is part of your stressors, right? We have to take care of those things before all the meditating and the breathing and the boundary work, before that's going to make a significant difference. Because if you're under a bridge or in a cardboard box or worried about your children's next meal, that's more important. So I am not practiced and skilled in solving those problems for you, but I can say start reaching out to churches, start reaching out to government and local entities that can help you with those things. Please do not be too proud to reach out for help. Okay, that is an excellent place where you need to reach out for help. Your local hospital, if you talk to the chaplain or to the social worker, those are also people that can help you with some of these issues. If you have a mega church in your community, that's another good place to go because they typically field lots of phone calls like this. You don't need to be a member of their congregation to ask for information. So those are places that I would start if I needed help. All right. One of the other times that all of these things becomes challenging is when being who you are is part of the medical bias, which is making it hard to get treatment. What do I mean by that? Well, while I don't love the term gaslighting, I understand it, and when I hear it, I tend to think intentional. I don't think our medical professionals are doing it to us intentionally, but I do think that they are telling us things that are untrue, simply because they don't know more, right? But and because of their implicit bias. But when you are a female, when you are in perimenopause or menopause, when you run a little anxious, if you're a little overweight, if you are too smart, if you are too pretty, if you are a person of color, all of these things can create a barrier to getting the care that you need. And when we are in combat with our healthcare team, that makes it really hard to feel safe and to calm ourselves. So that combativeness in our healthcare professionals often puts us into a state of hypervigilance and fight. We're fighting to be heard. We hope and we hope and we hope, and each subsequent doctor's visit tends to be kind of demoralizing. That ends up leaving us pretty helpless. And my encouragement to that is get yourself a community of people that understand. That's what my Facebook group, Chronic Pain Support Stories and Solutions, is all about. We are about supporting each other because we understand. Yes. So if your pain is being blamed on a feature of who you are, maybe just throw that out. Maybe just don't hold that. All right. Another place where we need to address X before we address Y difficult and abusive relationships, neglectful relationships, whether it's family members, a partner, a close friend, understanding those things was pivotal to me healing. I needed to reclaim my emotional health as part of my healing. That may not be part of your story, but I want people to be aware of it. When my ex-husband and I divorced, any residual pain that I had left at that point disappeared because I did not have the constant neglect. Because please remember, my husband was not outwardly abusive. He never hit me. He wasn't an alcoholic. He wasn't a yeller. Like, it wasn't those things. He just simply ignored me. It was like I wasn't there. And he did do a lot of blaming, like nothing was ever his fault. And so I was responsible for everything. And I felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. And when I left that relationship, I could breathe and I felt calmer. And I remember sleeping so much when I first left. And it was really my body repairing. It was recovering from the constant chemical onslaught of being in the throes of fight or flight. So please understand that being on constant alert in these relationships, in these close relationships in our lives, can really be doing a disservice to being able to heal. Now, I'm not saying divorce your partner. I'm using my example, like my story, as an example of how things were affecting me, and I wasn't even aware of it until I was out of it. But extricating yourself from toxic relationships, learning to set up boundaries, and learning to deal with those people in your life differently can be an amazing start at healing some of this chronic pain. If you have followed me much at all and you've attended one of my workshops, you may remember that I said the best predictor of ongoing back pain is how much you enjoy your job. Like, how safe you feel at work, how much you enjoy being at work. That is a better indicator of what's going to happen with your pain than the shoes you wear, than your leg length, than your MRI or your CT scan or your X-ray. It's actually how you feel when you are at work. And I think that is incredibly poignant because most of us are like, that's where we spend the majority of our time, is in our work environments. So if you are wildly stressed out by your boss or your job and you feel undervalued or overworked or never listened to, or like you just work with petty people, this is feeding part of your pain story. And I say that knowing that for many of us, we can't change our jobs. We're stuck where we are. Like, it is what it is. And so we need to see a talk therapist. We need to see a counselor. We need to do something to gain more skills to deal with work stress better. Again, I am not somebody that has the skills that can help you with those things, but I know that, talk therapy and different support systems outside of your workplace are places that you can go to try to deal with that. I think about a job that I had once upon a time, and my boss in that job was very, very anxious, and there was a lot that was not being done to the rules of that particular profession, and it was very, very stressful to me. And I actually ended up having heart palpitations, and my blood pressure was dropping really low. And so I wasn't having pain at the time, but I was having very real physical manifestations or physical responses to working in this environment. So something to think on. I am certain you also have stories from you or your friends or your loved ones that highlight that. And then the last thing I kind of want to bring up, I would prefer not to be political on this channel, but I would like to acknowledge that, again, in 2024, There is a lot going on in the United States. If you're from another country, I apologize that I'm unaware for the most part of what's going on in your country. But in our politics, things are very, very divisive. You feel very strongly one way or another. And it's led to a lot of tension just in the world at large, like in our world as we wander around in the United States. And it's background noise, and I understand that. But you know, if you watch TV or even on social media anymore, it's just kind of ever present. All of the different political changes that have happened and the candidates and all of that, and it can be very stressful to who we are, that just our environment is elevated. And the last part of that, like, societal issue is for those of you that are like me and still dealing with the ramifications of COVID. I am in year two and a half of long COVID, and it's changed my life. It's very significantly, frankly. And the pandemic is still happening. It didn't stop just because we stopped talking about it. And so that is also another divisive issue, that some people feel like, well, why do we need to keep talking about that? Other people are like, yeah, it's not a thing. Like, just go about your life. And obviously, from a science standpoint, I'm going to say, well, no, it's still in the wastewater, even as I make this video, April of 2024, you know, May of 2024, wastewater is still showing that COVID is still a thing. Now we're in a lull right now, but and that's terrific, but it's still killing and disabling a lot of people. Because of my algorithm, I see a lot of people fighting about masks and vaccines and things like that, and I know that that's part of my underlying, like, low level in the background, just kind of stressor, because I have to weigh how safe it is for me to, you know, go out to dinner with a loved one, or, you know, I try to do grocery shopping in the morning. I try to minimize my risk, because at this point I'm immune compromised, and that kind of sucks. So no matter which way you feel about that, because, you know, if you're on the other side and you're angry about all the things that changed and you had to do and this, that, and the other thing, I respect your opinion on that. We disagree, but I respect that you hold that opinion and that it is also a stressor for you. And I see that and I hear that and I respect that. And I want you to know that. So when we have these things that are happening in our society, you know, one of the other things in this time and place at the time of this recording could be, you know, if you are a Jewish American, there's a lot of crap going on, and again, there's lots of sides and there's lots of aspects, and these are complicated issues, right? And I don't want to make a statement on the issues, but I want to say I respect that these things take up space in our nervous system, and when those things are all happening at once, telling somebody to breathe or to, like, figure out how to deal with some of your trauma from your past, or to retrain your brain, stop thinking pain thoughts, like, really? If we're in a state of fight or flight constantly, it's really hard to downtrain your nervous system. So when these things keep coming at us, if you are struggling to apply these lessons, you're not alone. It's okay. I guess my conclusion to all of this is, it's a messy world out there. The things that I teach about ourselves, about the way that we can handle our pain, aren't quick. They aren't quick. They are things that take time. And the more noisy and the more unsafe our base environment is, the harder it is to implement these things. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means it's harder. So I just really wanted to take like a good hard look at some of the reasons that, you know, pain science may not be working for you right now. Don't give up. All of it's still real, but so are the different things that are going on in your life. Please remember, you are always welcome to book a consult with me. We can talk about your pain story and we can see if I can help with any of it. I have men and women from all over the world that have been helped with a little bit of coaching. And my goal is to have you see me as little as you possibly need to get you as well as we possibly can. All right. I hope that this was enlightening, and I will see you next week.